The United States. Land of the free, home of the brave, and the hub for insane facts. Let's get straight into it. Number 50. Canada is one of the world's biggest countries, right? Lots of space for ice hockey and maple syrup, but the US actually has more land. Canada has an area of 3.8 million square miles, but the land area is 3.51 million square miles. South of the border, there are 3.53 million square miles. Not a big difference, but hey, it all counts. Canada makes up the difference with really cold bodies of water. The United States probably got the better end of that deal. But up north, it isn't always frostbite and snow. Number 49. Alaska and Hawaii couldn't be more different. Oil, tourism, volcanoes, glaciers. But when it comes to temperature, they're practically twinsies. Hawaii's highest temperature ever recorded, 100 degrees Fahrenheit back in 1931. That's the same as the highest temp ever recorded in Alaska. It was in 1915, if you're wondering. Planning that next sunshine vacay? Don't rule out Alaska. Although, you may need a time machine. From one tropical paradise to another, and it's not where you think. Number 48, pop quiz. What's the best place to work on your tan? South Beach or Central Park? The highest temperature ever recorded in Miami was 98 degrees Fahrenheit. In New York City, it was 106 Fahrenheit. We'll let you decide if you prefer angry New Yorkers to the hurricanes. So whether you prefer sweating in Miami or boiling in New York, one thing's for sure. You'll probably fly through this next place to escape both. Number 47. What do you think is America's busiest airport? It's not LAX or a JFK. Nope. Wrong. It's Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. 104.7 million passengers passed through here in 2023. That's a lot of lost luggage. The distant runner-up is Chicago's O'Hare with about 85 million. LAX is 5th, and JFK? It's 6th. Atlanta is a major hub for Delta Airlines, which has thousands of daily flights. It's also strategic ground. 80% of the American population lives within a 2-hour flight of it. And while all those passengers are zipping across the country, here's a place that still manages to surprise everyone. Number 46. The Silver State is the driest in the country. You're lucky if you get 10 inches of rain a year, but snow? That's a different story. Nevada gets more snowfall than Washington, D.C., and it's cold, too. Average low temperatures in Vegas are around 80 degrees Fahrenheit in June, July, and August. Winter lows, though? They can be near freezing. Let's keep turning up the heat, though. Number 45. Death Valley. A place that lives up to its name. It gets so hot here, it could double as Satan's Airbnb. How hot? The highest verified recorded temperature on Earth, 134.1 degrees Fahrenheit, at a place called Furnace Creek in 1913. The US continues to throw up wild weather, from toasty to twisters. Number 44. The United States gets over 1,200 tornadoes a year, the most in the world. Not really something you put in the tourist brochure. It's all thanks to America's one-of-a-kind geography. Open-ended land sandwiched between the tropics and the cold air coming down from Canada. That's pretty much a welcome mat for tornadoes to come down and have a party. A seriously destructive party that makes insurance companies wake up in cold sweats. The only states where you won't get twisters relocating your house on a regular basis, Alaska and Hawaii. But they have polar bears and volcanoes, so, Tornadoes might tear up the land, but the borders? Those got ripped up by history. Number 43. The 13 OG states still have their colonial-era borders, and back then, map makers weren't exactly working with GPS. Close enough seemed to be the motto. Those early states were also massive compared to today. When they eventually coughed up land to the federal government to make new territories, the decisions were often guided by their old colonial charters. Pretty much every state east of the Mississippi has at least one border drawn by someone with a British accent. Well, except Wisconsin and Michigan, who were lucky enough to be out of reach before Britain could doodle on their map. While the rest of the US was busy drawing lines, Hawaii was busy being Hawaii. Number 42. There's only one state in the Union that doesn't have a straight line border. Any guesses? Well, take a second. It's Hawaii. Kind of easy when you're a bunch of islands. So yeah, the US is big. Big enough that time itself gets confused. Number 41. The US collects time zones like Pokemon. How many does it have? 11 time zones. Somewhere in America, it's always too early, too late, or time for lunch. The US tied with Russia for second most time zones in the world. Only France has more, with 13. All thanks to its overseas territory, including Adeliland in Antarctica. So far, we've seen that the US hoards tornadoes, time zones, and temperature swings like it's trying to win geography on this one. And that's just the start. Number 40. Beyond Canada and Mexico, the US has numerous maritime boundaries, such as with Russia, the Bahamas, Cuba, the Dominican Republic, Haiti, the UK, Netherlands, Jamaica, and even Japan. It's all thanks to maritime borders and exclusive economic zones, which basically let the US say, if I can fish there, it counts. Number 39. Road trips and the US go hand in hand. But ever wondered how the roads are numbered? If it ends in a 5, it's kind of a big deal. The VIP of the asphalt world, and it'll be going north to south. Major interstate highway routes that go east-west always end in a 0. Odd, even. Get it? And those major routes always have 2 numbers. The 3-digit highways are the sidekicks, shorter roads that loop into cities or hook back into the main routes. Alaska, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico have interstate highways, despite not touching another state. Their road numbers start with an A, H, or PR. Consistency clearly ran out of gas when it hit the coast. So, after mapping borders, America turned its attention inland. Number 38. In 1806, Congress decided the country needed a federally funded highway. It was called the National Road, original. It went from Maryland to Illinois, which back then felt about as cross-country as it got. Over 100 years later, the Victory Highway from 1921 celebrated World War I and overlapped earlier routes like the National Road. In 1926, the U.S. numbered highway system arrived, and much of Victory Road became U.S. Route 40, which was later sliced and diced again by the Interstate Highway System. Nothing says we won like a collection of exit signs and rest stops. Not every road got the Hollywood treatment, some just quietly kept going. Number 37. Copper Harbor is the farthest point in America from any interstate highway, but US Route 41 starts right there. From Michigan's frosty tip, it snakes all the way down to Miami, where snow shovels are replaced by sunglasses. It was supposed to be included in the interstate highway system, but it was left in the cold. Literally thanks to a bureaucratic error, because apparently someone's job was to punch in and hide from the boss that day. Upgrades were slow to come, but finally, an enterprising US congressman included a provision to make it I-41 in 2015. Turns out the long road to success is a literal road. And if you like these map dives, make sure to hit that subscribe button. I'm basically the Nebraska of YouTube. Flat, overlooked, and somehow still here. Anyway, from a forgotten road to one of the most famous. Number 36. US Route 66 from Chicago to Santa Monica is so famous that there's a fake version of it in China. But when it came time to build the interstate highway system, Route 66 didn't make the cut. Why? It just wasn't efficient enough. The road takes detours around obstacles. President Eisenhower, fresh off seeing Germany's high-speed autobahns during World War II, wanted roads that plowed straight through anything in the way. Hills, valleys, small towns, small animals. You can thank the Cold War for that speed over scenery mindset. If Route 66 shows how America traded beauty for speed, this next one shows what happens when the whole country refuses to slow down, even for sleep. Number 35. The United States loses 1.23 million working days every year because people weren't getting enough Z's in. A whole nation pulling an all-nighter for no reason. The cost? About $411 billion a year. Those power naps you sneak in at lunch, they're basically patriotic. Go ahead, close your eyes. You're saving the economy. If lack of sleep makes Americans feel like they're climbing uphill every day, this next one's about a road that actually does. Straight into the clouds. Number 34. The Mount Blue Sky Road is the highest paved road in the United States. It's over 14,100 feet up, twice as high as Denver. It's not exactly Route 66, but it's got its own kind of traffic. Mountain goats and bighorn sheep casually hanging out on the roadside like locals. They've seen enough cars to not care. They'll absolutely photobomb your selfies. Colorado's roads have mountain goats. Alaska's just miles of silence and the occasional trucker questioning their life choices. Number 33. The emptiest road in the country, Alaska's Route 11, from Fairbanks to a place with the fitting name of Dead Horse. Mildly exhausted horse didn't fit the vibe. 196 vehicles swing through here every day, and a lot of those are ice road truckers. Makes sense. Dead Horse had a population of 26 in 1990. Out here, traffic jams are a myth, gas stations are dreams, and the nearest Starbucks is probably in another time zone. After surviving Alaska's endless nothing, welcome to LA, where standing still counts as driving. Number 32. If California were its own country, its economy would be the fourth biggest in the world, $4.1 trillion. Only the US, China, and Germany beat it. Not bad for a place that spends its money on avocado toast and real estate. And California is not the only one flexing. Texas has the same GDP as Italy. New York is bigger than South Korea. Even Pennsylvania's economy is as big as Saudi Arabia's. Number 31. US Route 20 isn't exactly a seamless ride. You can blame the elk, bison, and all the other stubborn critters for that. Yellowstone National Park cuts through it, forcing drivers to detour around. That still doesn't stop it from being the longest road in the United States, almost 3,400 miles from Boston to Newport, Oregon, coast to coast bragging rights. It's been around in its current form more or less since 1926, but it got a patriotic glow-up at the end of 2024. Well, sort of. It became the National Medal of Honor Highway. Same asphalt, new aura. Now we know that the US has roads for everyone, from truckers to tourists to the occasional confused bison. Ready for the next facts? Drop in the comments which one surprised you so far. Number 30. Arizona has some of the hottest temperatures in America. Expect highs in the low hundreds in June, July, and August. Except for at Flagstaff. The average high here is only 80 Fahrenheit. Perfect for anyone who doesn't like boiling alive. But Arizona isn't as sweltering as you might think. The Flagstaff area has at least 3 ski resorts. There's another near the Apache Sitgreaves National Forests, and there's even one just north of Tucson. Nothing says hitting the slopes like speeding by a cactus. Enjoy those wide-open slopes while you can, because a state over, everything comes to a standstill. Number 29. America's busiest road is the I-5 stretch, spanning Los Angeles, Long Beach, and Santa Ana. Average daily vehicles, 504,000. That was in 2019, so things are probably busier now. If you ever need to brave it, plan ahead, or better yet, plan around it. And if you find yourself there at rush hour, well, I hope you packed snacks. And maybe an audiobook trilogy. After battling the I-5, you'd think California's only export is stress, but it actually supplies something far more important. Number 28. When you think of California's economy, you think of tech. Apple, Nvidia, Meta, and Alphabet are all headquartered here. Tesla used to be too, before Elon Musk decided Texas offered more opportunities to be, well, Elon Musk. But California's other big moneymaker is way older, 12,000 years older. It's one of America's agricultural powerhouses and grows over 25% of the country's fruits, vegetables, and nuts. It feeds the country and runs its apps, the ultimate overachiever. While California's out here planting crops and coding apps, New York's just planting dollar signs. Number 27. New York City is like its cockroaches. It can survive almost anything. Economic crashes, crime waves, freak hurricanes, pandemics, the city just dusts itself off, grabs a bagel, and keeps going. About $2 trillion flows through the city's financial networks every day. That's the same as Russia's entire economy. Sorry, Vladimir. There's just too much money going around. New York City is pretty much untouchable, the ultimate grind machine. So with all that cash flying around, you'd think America would be debt-free by now. you'd be wrong. Number 26. How does the US manage to rack up massive deficits and still sleep just fine? Easy. It's got the world's reserve currency, a financial cheat code. When the gold standard went belly up in the 1970s, America made a convenient agreement with Saudi Arabia. Sell your oil in dollars. The rest of OPEC joined in and boom, the petrodollar was born. Now, if you want oil, you need dollars. It's like the world's biggest cover charge, and Uncle Sam is on the door. Sure, OPEC might have lost its swagger, but the US dollar still calls the shots in global energy, letting America print, spend, and borrow like a college kid with a credit card. Except the debt collector also uses dollars. And running the world's money wasn't enough. The US went ahead and took over its computers, too. Number 25. Taiwan might be the king of actually making semiconductors, but the United States controls about 47% of the global semiconductor sales. That means important chip architectures, design tools, and patents that make those tiny silicon brains work. So while Taiwan's busy cranking out the chips, the US is the one holding the instruction manual. And that's a serious headache for China, which can't design cutting-edge chips without bumping into an American copyright somewhere. Controlling the tech is great. Controlling the stuff that makes the tech? Even better. Number 24. The United States is the OP country of the real world, loaded with resources like it's playing on easy mode. Altogether, it's sitting on about $45 trillion worth of natural goodies. There's oil, natural gas, rare earth metals, copper, timber, and gold. It's the Costco of the world. It's the second richest country in natural resources. Top of the class? Russia, with $75 trillion. But unlike Russia, the US has ports, pipelines, and logistics running 24/7 to move the goods. So, yeah, the US is rich in everything except sleep. Number 23. North Dakota's Route 46 runs for 121 miles in a straight line, the longest in the United States. It could practically double as a ruler. In fact, it's so straight that it's actually ranked 4th in the world, behind only Saudi Arabia's Highways 85 and 10 and the La Gerenza Estigarribia in Paraguay. It's less a highway and more a test of how long your attention span lasts before you start naming fence posts. Number 22. What does all of this wealth add up to? A $27.7 trillion economy, 26.1% of the world's GDP. The US economy is bigger than China, Germany, and Japan combined. It's like showing up to a group project and realizing one person did all the work, and then charged everyone for it. But it turns out, when one country does all the work, a handful of people get all the paychecks. Number 21. The United States had 813 billionaires at the end of 2024. Their net worth? About $5.7 trillion. That means combined, these 813 people are richer than every other country except the United States and China. Not bad for a group small enough to fit in a football stadium center, assuming it had valet parking private jets. So America's crushing it in cash and chips, but clearly not in sleep. Which one surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments. Number 20. The bottom 99% of American households have a net worth of about $110.8 trillion. Obviously, someone's doing great. Clearly, no one told my bank account, though. Meanwhile, the top 1% of households control a net worth of $49.2 trillion. That's how rich America really is. One group's buying yachts. The rest of us are still trying to find spare change for gas. Money might make America powerful now, but it all started with one giant impulse purchase. Number 19. Spain used to own the Louisiana Territory, and America had to haggle over navigation routes. Then Napoleon swooped in and took it back, and brought drama. Classic small man energy. But his grand plan to rebuild a North American empire went up in smoke, all because of a slave revolt in what became Haiti. Suddenly, that Louisiana land wasn't worth the trouble. So Thomas Jefferson dropped $15 million for it, around $370 million today. It was the biggest land deal in American history. 828,000 square miles. America doubled in size overnight, all thanks to a slave revolt Jefferson opposed and a financial system he spent decades hating. Hypocrisy? Sure, but when you double your country's size, people tend to let that slide. And that's not the only bargain the US has picked up. Number 18. Back in the day, Russia needed money after it lost the Crimean War, and they slapped a big for sale sign on Alaska. So Secretary of State William Seward offered a nice deal to buy the distressed property for $7.2 million, $130 million today. The Tsar said, sold, probably thinking he'd just unloaded a useless icebox on the Americans, and so did most of the US. But Seward had the last laugh. Alaska had gold, and oil, and natural gas, all more than enough to pay for itself and then some. Not bad for a deal everyone mocked as buying a giant ice cube. From the biggest land grab in history to the smallest one no one asked for. Number 17. Tucked away on 9.8 acres in the Nevada desert is the Republic of Molossia. It's even got its own flag. So dream big, kids. Even you can turn your backyard into a country. President Kevin Baugh opens this country up to tourism between April and October. There you can swing through the government's offices and take a look at the local currency, and even learn about the naval fleet, which is less battleships and destroyers and more inflatable pool toys. So Nevada's got its own tiny country, but California's got a place where people disappear entirely. Number 16. Looking to lie low? Try Slab City in Imperial County, California. You just have to brave the scorching Sonora Desert. There used to be a military base here during World War II. After the war, all that remained was the slabs of concrete. Slowly, people moved in and turned it into a settlement. No taxes, no rent, no rules. Sounds great until you realize there's also no electricity, no plumbing, and no trash pickup. It's popular with homeless people, but also artists and survivalists. They call it the last free place, though you can bet the IRS is already drafting plans to prove them wrong. Slab City ditched the rules. These folks just rewrote them with a hymn book. Number 15. The Bible Belt isn't the only place with religion. Chicago has its own Jesus people. They're a legacy of the 1960s evangelical movement. The haircuts have changed, but the spirit hasn't. The community has between 100 and 450 members, and they hosted the Cornerstone Christian Music Festival from 1984 to 2012. Think Woodstock with fewer drugs and more hymns. These days, they're still going strong, based in a building that used to be the Chelsea Hotel. Room service comes with a sermon. America's full of believers. Some follow Christ, others, they follow Caesar. Number 14. Go to Maine, and you'll find people clinging to the old Roman religion and values. It's called Nova Roma, and they're properly serious about it. There's a Senate, magistrates, and a legislature made up of members to pass laws. It even has its own coins. No empire is complete without currency featuring someone in a toga. And like a true empire, its citizens are scattered around the globe. But the headquarters sits proudly in the Pine Tree State, proving all roads now lead to Maine. Rome wasn't built in a day, but Agloe, New York? That one was built in an afternoon. Number 13. Mapmaker General Drafting was one of the top dogs in its business. When it made its map of New York, it dreamed up the fictional town of Agloe. It wasn't real, just a clever way to catch copycats. Their own little DMCA before the internet. And it worked. Sort of. Rival Rand McNally published a map with Agloe on it, and General Drafting threatened to sue. But then Rand McNally's lawyers pointed out there actually was a store at Agloe. Someone had built one right where the fake town was marked. So a fake town became real. At least until the store closed and Agloe vanished again. It's probably the only place in history that got gaslighted into existence by cartographers. So after creating a fake town, America moved on to something even stranger, a private island nation. Number 12. Welcome to North Dumpling Island off the New York and Connecticut coast. It was the personal micronation of Dean Kamen, the guy who invented the Segway. Proof that you really can have too much money and too much free time. It has everything a nation should want, right? There's a flag, a national anthem, an exact replica of Stonehenge for artistic taste, and a lighthouse for navigation. That includes the country's navy of one boat. Small, sure, but it gets great gas mileage. But North Dumpling doesn't have its own language, though. Go to Milwaukee for that. Number 11. There's a little-known kingdom in the United States. At least, that's what Milwaukee local Robert Madison says. In 1979, the 14-year-old founded the Kingdom of Tolosa. The word comes from the Finnish inside the house, which checks out. The entire territory was his bedroom. Over time, it expanded into the city, and now parts of Milwaukee are the Greater Tolosan area. It has a population of 585 registered individuals, and they're all supposed to speak a new language that has its own newspaper. No word on whether His Majesty still has to clean his room, but let's hope the royal decree covers Laundry Day. Now we know that the US has done everything from bargain shopping for Alaska to inventing fake countries. But the top 10, that's where things officially go off the rails. Number 10. America once had an emperor. Well, sort of. Joshua Abraham Norton, a San Francisco businessman who hit it big in 1849, just as the city was exploding with opportunity. But a bad deal and years of lawsuits wiped him out completely. So he decided the best solution was to declare himself Emperor of the United States. In 1859, he issued a royal proclamation announcing his new title. From the top floor of a 3-story boarding house, hardly the Colosseum, but everyone has to start somewhere, Emperor Norton I went on to issue edicts, abolish Congress, and even print his own currency, which, to be fair, local businesses sometimes honored. No one took it seriously, but at least he was a local celebrity. He'd probably be huge on TikTok today and have his own merch line. But as odd as Norton was, even his decrees couldn't match some of the real laws out there. Number 9. Thinking of catching a little rainwater? Check your local laws. It's not as simple as putting out a bucket. In Arkansas, you can only collect rain outdoors, not for drinking, and only if it's designed by a licensed engineer. It's hydration with paperwork. In California, it has to follow the State Water Resource Board's requirements, which sounds about as fun as reading them. And it doesn't stop there. Colorado, Georgia, Illinois, Nevada, North Carolina, Ohio, Oregon, Rhode Island, Texas, Utah, Vermont, Virginia, and Washington all have rainwater collection regulations. Nothing says land of the free like needing government permission to use the weather. First, the government tells you how to use the rain. Now, it's telling you who gets to fill your tank. Number 8. In every state, it's legal to pump your own gas. Every state but one. New Jersey. There you've got to sit tight and let a gas station attendant do it for you. So if you're ever road tripping through the Garden State, resist the urge to grab the pump. You'll just cause mild anxiety for everyone. America may not agree on who pumps the gas, but it definitely agrees that daylight savings is the worst. Number 7. In the US, there's one thing Americans can all agree on. Everyone hates changing the clocks twice a year. Now imagine the pain of Mexico Beach, Florida, where it's a full-time identity crisis. The Panhandle is in the central time zone, and the peninsula is in the eastern. But Mexico Beach? It sits right on that border. Imagine trying to schedule anything when your neighbor's 2 p.m. is your 3 p.m. And it's not alone. There's College Corner on the Indiana-Ohio border, Clovis, New Mexico near the border with Texas, and plenty more towns where a 5-minute drive means jumping an hour into the future or the past. Some towns can't agree on the time. Others can't agree on which state they're in. Number 6. Head to Bristol, Tennessee, and you'll find State Street. It's an ordinary-looking road that happens to double as the border between Tennessee and Virginia. Back in 1852, Joseph Anderson bought land on both sides to build a railroad. He then founded the town of Bristol on the Tennessee side. Not to be outdone, Samuel Goodson started his own settlement right across the street and named after himself, Goodsonville. A bold act. The ego trip didn't last. By 1890, Goodsonville decided to rebrand as Bristol too. Today, the two Bristols are technically separate cities with different taxes, laws, and even flags marking the state line. It's twin cities, just with a shared main street and a mild case of identity crisis. Two towns sharing one street is pretty messy. Try two states sharing one post office. Number 5. Thinking of mailing a package from the Texarkana Post Office and Federal Building? Congratulations, you've just crossed state lines. The border between Texas and Arkansas runs right through the middle of it. It's the kind of bureaucratic oddity only America could produce. State Line Avenue separates the two states, and the post office building is smack in the center of that avenue. So technically, when you drop off your mail, half your letter's in Texas and the other half's in Arkansas. No wonder USPS is slow. So after splitting mail across state lines, why stop there? America went ahead and split a swimming pool too. Number 4. Back in 1926, the Calneva Lodge and Casino opened on the shores of Lake Tahoe, the kind of place where movie stars and mobsters shared cocktails and plausible deniability. The pool was a highlight of the resort. A crisp white line ran straight through the middle, not marking the deep end, but the state border between California and Nevada. You could literally float between two states without ever leaving the water. Perfect for anyone indecisive about gambling laws or tax brackets. The lodge closed in 2013, so a cross-border swim is off the table. For now, you'll just have to choose a state the old-fashioned way, by driving there, not dog-paddling across it. Now we know America has its own emperor, nobody likes changing the clocks, and state lines don't care about your Amazon packages. And that's the more normal stuff. We've hit the top 3 insane facts. Ready to see how weird it gets? Number 3. Some places like Chesapeake in Virginia take Halloween seriously. So seriously that it's illegal for anyone over the age of 14 to go trick-or-treating. So if you're planning to go door-to-door for free sugar, maybe stick to handing out the candy instead. Or just go as something really scary, like a responsible adult. Paying taxes. From outlawing costumes to outlawing car sales, America really knows how to ruin things. Number 2. Michigan was the revving engine of the motor industry, which makes this law feels like it was written by someone allergic to irony. It's illegal to buy or sell a car on Sunday. It's supposed to promote rest and religious observance, so if you're feeling spontaneous and want to buy a car, you'll just have to wait until Monday. In Michigan, even the cars need a day off to recharge their batteries, spiritually and physically. So you can't buy a car on Sunday in Michigan. And in Alabama, you can't even crack a smile. Number 1. In Alabama, there's a number of weird law lists, and many claim it's illegal to wear a fake mustache in a church, just in case it causes laughter. Nothing says sin like a misdemeanor for comedy facial hair. The idea is to prevent anything that might interrupt the spirit of the occasion. No word on what happens if your mustache is real, though. Hopefully, divine judgment doesn't come down to grooming choices. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more videos like this, then please consider subscribing and turn on notifications. Really does make a difference. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time on MatPack.